As game prices skyrocket and services become an absolute requirement for us to play our games, I can't help but feel uninterested in the very hobby that I've spent decades pouring my heart into. And it begs the question, what am I supposed to do? I'm not gonna give up on my hobby, heck no. I'm not gonna just all of a sudden be like, nope, that's it, I'm done, because that's just not possible, especially as someone who grew up with a Game Boy in my hand. Well, I recently had embarked on a journey. That journey was to experience old games that I hadn't played before. And a big part of that was because of these really cool books right here. In fact, this book, the unofficial Pixel book by Bitmap Books, there are pages, and this is just one of the many books I have of these types of pictures. This is from Final Fantasy V. I didn't play Final Fantasy V growing up because I lived in America. I played Final Fantasy X. That was actually my first ever Final Fantasy from start to finish. Yeah, I skipped a lot. Now, the more and more I thought about this, the more I was asking questions like, how is this happening? We have more access to more games more than ever before, and people are gravitating towards things like this, playing games like this. This combination is quite literally the least effective, least user-friendly, least comfortable way to play this game, Link's Awakening. There's a much better version that you can play on the Nintendo Switch 2, but somehow this is still wanted. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I get it. Nostalgia plays a big role in a lot of this, and I'm not gonna sit here and deny that, but something is happening in the gaming space where people are willing to spend money to get this thing going again. Now, I have the ability to play not only Majora's Mask, but with the original controller on a Nintendo Switch 2 plugged into my TV, and it's far more user-friendly than this. Heck, when I first got this, I'm still waiting for it to show up in the mail. I still can't even play this game. I don't have the expansion pack. I had to spend way too much money to buy the expansion pack for this thing. But I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one who's feeling this. In fact, I know I'm not the only one because there is a ginormously booming industry that I'm seeing everywhere. And it is the retro console space. So when I hear retro consoles, I don't think what you traditionally would. Let me get it real quick. Much better. I don't feel like these as a whole are necessarily what they are expected to be, right? So this is a retro console. This is the RG35XX SP. When I hear retro console, I literally think maybe this is a retro console. This is what we know as old school consoles. But I get it. This is playing retro games on a console, which I think that this one, the RG35XX SP, is a great one. It's also the only one that I've used ever. I just like fake espresso. This all comes down to a very specific topic. This all comes down to a very specific feeling that I think these machines right here are trying to capture, and that is personal gaming. How gaming used to feel. It used to feel like it was yours. This was your Game Boy Advance. This was your Game Boy Pocket. These things were yours. They were a part of your person. It's why I find myself drawn and compelled to play games on something like a Nintendo Switch or wonderful, beautiful Steam Deck. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I actually think the platform is relatively meaningless. I don't think that the Steam Deck, Nintendo Switch 2, or even the N64 is the actual bringer of fun and joy. I think rather, and a dabble, do ya? It is the experience that these devices can bring you in tandem with an era of gaming that, again, had this personal feel, this personal touch. You didn't feel like you were being marketed to, although the N64 did some great things with marketing. It was more, you were a part of something. You were a part of an experience. And that no longer is the case. Back in the day, you were part of a team. You were part of Team Xbox, Team Sony, Team whatever. And the console wars were silly. They sure were. And I'll be honest, console wars today are actually a lot more aggressive because we have keyboard warriors. And I think that's really what ruined it. But one of the greatest things that came with that console war was this sense of pride, the sense of belonging, this somewhat tribalistic way of gaming, which again feeds into the personal aspect of things. It had to do with the idea of delivering an experience, delivering a story, and most importantly, delivering something that created memories. I can tell you exactly the feeling, the smell, the moment that I played Gauntlet Legends in my living room during a sleepover with my friends fighting over who was next. I could tell you the absolute pandemonium that existed with Crystal Chronicles when my buddy Tristan stole the chest from right underneath me and then picked up the crystal and I was left outside to take damage. I remember these moments. And these are tied to nostalgia. Someone's gonna be like, oh, that's just a nostalgia dump. No, it is not just a nostalgia dump. It is a very specific feeling that exists. It's a nostalgia dump. It's a nostalgia dump. And you know what? That's fine. I'm okay with that. It's not why I find myself gravitating to these titles anyway. It's not because of memories. It's actually because I find myself analoging more and more and more. And with the almost insulting way that games are delivered to me nowadays, I really am like, you know what? Maybe I just miss stuff. Maybe there's stuff back there, and I don't think I'm alone. These retro handhelds are exploding right now. Every other video I see on YouTube has to do with the new hot retro handheld that is replicating something that I got to live through personally. Now, I absolutely believe that there was a golden age in gaming. I genuinely do. It was like 94 through 2008, maybe. Maybe it's just because I was a kid then, but I am biased towards that era. Here's the deal. These emulation devices are incredible. They're absolutely phenomenal, and I'm genuinely tempted to purchase many of them. But I find myself kind of at this weird impasse. I have the ability to enjoy these games on original hardware and experience some of the drawbacks that were older devices. And I don't think that's for everyone, and I definitely don't think everyone should do this, but I find myself wanting to play games on my Nintendo 64. I have a PS1 coming in the mail, same with Super Nintendo, and I have a 3DS as well as a Game Boy. So I'm covered. Game prices have come down exponentially. I was able to get A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo for $20. Now, is it real? I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. But going back and playing some of these games is unplugged. It is completely detached from those distractions. No internet connection, no update, nothing. The game is finished. Yes. And this might be a case for physical media. And I'm not going to sit here and say that physical media isn't important. I genuinely believe it is. A game like Super Mario Land 2 or Donkey Kong Country 2. Heck, Zelda 1. All of these are games that are a snapshot of history. They're a snapshot in time. Gaming when it was different. Not better, different. And I find myself gravitating towards this style more because I'm looking to unplug from the algorithms, unplug from the suggestions, and just experience gaming personally again. This is the biggest part of gaming that I always loved. You are a part of a team. Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. You were a part of something big. But as the greater gamer community has grown, you're no longer a part of that anymore. There's no Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation. It's Fortnite, Call of Duty. You're part of ecosystems, and it just doesn't feel the same. And so, we look back. We experience older games. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's been close to my heart. I've definitely felt this more and more as gaming has gone on. And if you're into this sort of video, awesome. Feel free to stick around. Subscribing helps, but don't feel obligated. All right, I'm gonna finish this mediocre cup of coffee and go experience some exceptional gaming on my Analog Pocket. Play more and be kind. Cheers.